Yeah, surprising that something Taiwanese can work so well.
There you go, being Orientalist again.
Well, you know what? Turn
Every time we debate.
Every time.
John is Orient. I've said it before. I mean it.
Do
Do we want to wait on ballots, or?
I mean, I figured he'd probably go.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all agree these are the 3 people we're supposed to judge.
Wait just a second. And we're good.
Okay, cool. So then everyone's ready? Cool. Wonderful. Let's have some fun. Observation 1 is the resolution analysis. The appointment of resolution, the United States federal government should substantially increase its diplomatic engagement with Venezuela. The support is the friendship with criterion that beneficial policy with the observation to inheritance. The support we've had tense relations with Venezuela for years. In 2002, they accused us of supporting a failed coup against Hugo Chavez. The visa point is that ambassadors between the 2 nations were canceled in 2008. The C argument is that there are still diplomats in both countries, but the diplomatic relations are still declining because we expelled 2 diplomats. We expelled 2 Venezuelan diplomats in March of this year. They also expelled diplomats from Venezuela. The point is, Hugo Chavez has died recently, in case any of you haven't heard. The observation 3 is the plain text. The United States federal government should substantially increase its diplomatic engagement with Venezuela by normalizing diplomatic relations with Venezuela. Wait 1 second. By normalizing diplomatic relations, with Venezuela, funding and enforcement through normal means. The United States federal government should substantially increase its diplomatic engagement with Venezuela by normalizing diplomatic. No, Emily. By normalizing diplomatic relations with Venezuela, funding and enforcement through normal means. That's the terrible plain text that we have to fix. Yeah, that one's not topical. Observation 4, fine, I'll read the 4th point first, Martin, since you need to know. Observation 4 is solvency. This would always increase our relations. It would increase the number of diplomats that we interchange with one another. It would also allow for the establishment of embassies in each country and allow for talks. It's also an official term of literature. We would say that we've normalized diplomatic relations with Venezuela, which has impacts in and of itself. The second argument is this would be seen as a gesture to the Maduro regime, which indicates we actually don't have to have enmity between our 2 countries, and he doesn't have to say things like the United States gave Hugo Chavez cancer that probably aren't true. The third argument is it allows for quid pro quo negotiations. This would always be seen as an extension of goodwill on the part of the United States, would allow us to ask Venezuela for some things the way friends ask things of each other. The fourth argument is Venezuela would always say yes. The acting president Maduro actually needs credibility. He's painted himself into a corner right now with his rhetoric. He needs to be able to be perceived as someone the international community can work with. The other argument is they fear United States, particularly without Chavez, which indicates that they don't always say yes because they don't want to be at odds with the United States. Venezuela relations. Ace point is the first argument is United States Venezuela relations progressing now. The ace point is done. The base point is April 2009. Clinton went to Trinidad and Tobago after ambassadors had been kicked out and discussed terms to reestablish economic and diplomatic ties. The talks have been ongoing. The antipathy between the 2 governments had decreased over the past couple of years, but that ended when Chavez died. We pulled out of talks. The visa point is that Ed Royce, the chair of the House Committee on Foreign Relations, called Hugo Chavez a tyrant after his death and said, "Good riddance to the dictator." The C point is the chair of the Senate Relations, said that it is a good day for the U.S. when Hugo Chavez died. This forced Venezuela to adopt a posture of aggression and anti-United States stance. They didn't want to take and doesn't fit their geopolitical interests, but they needed to in the wake of Hugo Chavez's death, and they felt vulnerable. The C point here is that Maduro expelled diplomats in March, and the United States retaliated. The next argument is Maduro has been railing against the United States, and there's risk of economic and diplomatic ties collapsing if this rhetoric continues. The second argument is that was absolutely key time. It stopped the resentment in the wake of Chavez. It is able to correct our stance and indicate we're not dancing on Chavez's grave. We're not trying to seize control in Latin America, and we'd like to establish relations with Venezuela. The second argument is that it would always be able to change Maduro's rhetoric, running up to the change Maduro's rhetoric and change his calculus because he doesn't believe that he needs to posture against the United States that is intent on establishing colonial control over Latin America again. The C point is that this would always change the election mandate that Maduro would actually receive. He would be able to change in time to not get elected on a totally I hate the United States platform, which would dictate his behavior going forward. B point is link arguments. First argument, this would always cause this is perceived as a shift in United States relations, which indicates a change of strategy, which indicates that Venezuela would be able to receive a different strategy from the United States going forward. The second argument is it indicates a willingness to engage and not just to run roughshod over Venezuela, which indicates that they don't have to participate in this type of rhetoric. They don't have to fear the United States. The third argument is that it takes away their propensity for firebrand rhetoric, which is always going to pressure them to remain against the United States going forward. C's point is the internal links. The first argument is that cooperation is key to anti-narcotics efforts. 2013 report from the United States government indicated that 80% of cocaine that gets into the United States goes through Venezuela. This also leads to a bunch of drug trade. Also leads to much violence as seen on the border of Mexico. The second argument is this is key to the economies of both countries. Venezuela's unemployment is 9.4%. They need cooperation with the United States. Their ability to buy raw goods manufactured in Venezuela in order to be able to reduce poverty there. They are also key oil export. We indicate in the world where Venezuela shuts off oil to the United States, and they're one of our biggest, one of the countries we import the most from. It always leads to price shocks in the United States. Decent point is the impact. We tell you that counter-narcotics are always key to stopping international crime in Latin America, which allows for the human trafficking of thousands of people, which is a terrible impact. These people are treated as non-human and treated as disposable. We also tell you these keep solving back for death. There are thousands of deaths due to drug war every single year. This is an impact we actually have a propensity to solve. The third argument is the Venezuelan economy. This will always lead to massive increase in poverty in the world. This always lead to massive increase in poverty, which is a death impact. Poverty-related deaths are the #1 killer in the world. The fourth argument is we in economic collapse in a world where they shut off oil. We said that economic collapse would go global. 2008 proves and would lead to resource wars because you wouldn't have traditional markets to give resources through. Would be trying to die for every country. Matt fails to check those. Nuclear. Also poverty if the world economy collapses. Democracy. Ace point is democracy promotion is low. The first Ace point is the first argument is democracy promotion is low. Status quo Obama hasn't acted sufficiently in the Arab Spring. The United States has been broadly disengaged from Latin America. The second argument is that instability and corruption are happening in Venezuela now. Chavez had used corrupt tactics as United States News in 2013. The second argument is a group called Polity in 2011 measures the relative democracy of each countries from -10 to 10. Venezuela received 1, indicates there why there's not a lot of freedom or democracy in Venezuela. This point is the link argument is playing to decrease the pressure on Maduro to actually employ these means because he doesn't think that he has to fight against the United States. The second argument is the plan is always going to allow for a quid pro quo. We'd be able to push for free and fair elections in a world where we've made the concession. The third argument is that plan is perceived as the United States being able to move towards these elections from normalizing diplomatic relations. The cease points the internal links free and fair elections are key to stability in Guatemala. It stops oppression by the government of the opposition. It also stops a violent opposition movement from emerging in a world post-Chavez where there's lots of instability. Decent point is the impact. We tell you that democracy promotion is generally good. Allows for a more stable world and less autocrats which violate human rights, kill people. The second argument is that it stops a civil war in Venezuela either through government oppression triggering it or through people resisting Chavez and his government. Civil war kills 10,000 people.
That's the answer to relations for you.
32 updates. Cool. Yeah, I will talk about sovereignty.
Good. Is either done today?
No.
Shock.
Seriously?
It's Beauregard from King Lang.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a commercial break that I want you to flow, and there's another that I don't want you to flow.
None of them were there for that.
Yeah. Word.
Over the bars.
Over the bars.
I know, right?
That's also Total Dog.
I'm trying to.
Don't just stay here.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Surprise, surprise, surprise. The first sentence, dissentist immigration union gets comprehensive reforms coming out. The first argument is that the Gang of Eight is created bipartisan support in Congress with lays that it includes major GOP and Democratic leaders like Rubio, McCain, and Durbin. The little B is according to the LA Times. The Gang of Eight is leading around the pathway to citizenship and high school worker visa reforming and also border security, which were the major obstacles. This has created reform within the Senate, and bureaucracy is able to get things passed because the GOP and major members are able to create blocks of their opposition. They either of opposition or reform. This is why there was consensus prior to the election around the continuing funding of the government and against the sequestration after the second argument is the House is on board. Little latest election showed that GOP needs a win on immigration. Little B is that Boehner has said the citizenship should be the pathway to citizenship is an idea worthy of consideration. As a result of the argument, it's the top of the docket. The Gang of Eight is going to introduce the legislation on March 22nd, and it's going to be voted on immediately after the recess in 2 weeks. The length of the plan kills immigration reform by killing bipartisanship within the Gang of Eight. One, the plan angers key GOP members. The Marco Rubio's contempt the newly sworn president as being too much like Chavez and violating the the Constitution, he called for a boycott of Chavez's funeral, and Rubio called on Obama to condemn Maduro. Little B is McCain leading up to the last election. He said Chavez's followers supported terrorist activities. He tried to get General Doug Frazier to agree with him when the guy testified in front of Congress and said that McCain was wrong. McCain had a freak out on national television. Little C is that the plan also was going to proceed as an endorsement of the new Chavez regime, and Obama's using the death as an excuse to engage with the countries which the GOP still opposes. Little D, this is going to anger GOP and these GOP members and create mistrust among GOP on security issues, which means they're not going to believe in the consensus that has been created over border security. That means that they push for their own legislation rather than working within the gang array. This means that the bills necessarily fail because when there are two competing legislations, it creates a zero-sum game where both parties can't claim a winner on them, and they necessarily fail. The final argument is the internal links is that fiscal is key to the economy. There's going to be a 4.2 million high-skilled worker shortage as a result of the baby boomer crisis. Over 50% of high-skilled engineers within places like Silicon Valley are going to collapse. This is key to the manufacturing sector because only when there's high technology and increased productive capacity, which decreases the prices of our goods, can we compete with other regions. This is key to 12% of the U.S. GDP and economy in the tech sector. Is what has allowed us to continue even as other sectors have applied the impact across their impact to the economy. This leads to more extinction, but we are going to win a far better return link to China, to say. Oh, also. This was also turned case because in a world where U.S. economy declines, it means that we're not being seen as a benefit of relations, and we would not be able to give anything to these countries, and it's a reason why democracy promotion would fail because the U.S. would look weak, China said. Uniqueness. One Southerners are empowered out of the late China spearhead the UN sanctions on North Korea, calling its actions, North Korea's actions racist Libya as China appointed its foreign minister Wang Yi as the former ambassador to Japan. As Xi Jinping, the new president, expressed desire for cooperation with the United States and opened up China to foreign direct investment. Second argument, hardliners could backlash a little late in response to Biden's state visit. The hardliner news program showed images of U.S. aircraft carriers in Libya that PLA allegedly looked to launch radar on the Japanese destroyer near Senkaku Islands. Third argument is territorial disputes and business interests are absolutely key to this political dynamic. Xi Jinping could flip. He said that if the U.S. interferes with China's sphere of influence, China must, quote, slam its fist on the table, and so the rest of the world will hear. He gave this speech in Mexico. Libya's FDI and joint ventures have led to business backing of the softliner factions, but oil companies have said that if the PLA could be a more profitable partner, then that should be considered. And little C. Wang Xi said China would be a welcome the NHF, or the U.S. not to interfere with Chinese interests. The length of the planet causes a shift towards the hardliners. What Venezuela is the key economic and diplomatic part of the oil, and China's National Oil Corporation modernized their oil infrastructure. They give the exports 1 million barrels of oil today to China. Little because diplomacy. Madero has said its first trip is going to be to China. Little C is that China has $12 billion in other investments, railroad projects, and telecom. Little D is that on March 9th, Madero said that met with China's delegation vowing to have closer ties. That kind of plan is going to be perceived as crowding on China, perceptually seen as trying to crowd on China, especially because he was already supportive of Korea's, and it's unprecedented. We have not normalized relations in the past several decades, and this also flips perception. He was pivoted towards Asia, and they only get their relations advantage if they're literally crowding out the U.S. market and creating exports to the United States, and vice versa. The internally hardliners take power. One now is key. The Politburo hasn't come to a stable party line. The PLA is going to influence, and this is because the national party platform is being formulated as we speak. The impact of this leads to hardliners. They constantly miscalculate one thing. They are not tied by trade ties because they do not feel away economic interdependence is actually good. They've said that it's equivalent to meat thrown at
it's a meat bun thrown at hungry
meat thrown at hungry dogs and ridiculous crowds. The amount, which means they're not going to be tied. They will also tie Taiwan and South China State because the one thing it's necessary for the economy. They say we should use the military to support our economy, and they constantly overestimate their ability to crowd out the United States. They think the U.S. wouldn't be able to respond because their preemptive strike would be too strong, but the U.S. they would use nuclear weapons, and this would cause nuclear war and extinction.
Question?
Yeah.
What's the initial start of the war scenario? China goes in where?
Taiwan and South China Sea.
Okay, cool.
Okay, relations. All right, on say yes. Madero would say, no, first argument is the key to his election. He has platformed on continuing Chavez's 14-year policy, which has been anti-U.S. and pro-socialism, and allowing for the U.S. increased diplomatic engagement, and then the necessary necessary contingent upon that, which is to start liberalizing your economy, because that's what the U.S. demands would be seen as going against this. This is the reason why Chavez was able to be a winner for 14 years. He was not going to allow this. It's only his only political motivation. They say that he is creating fear-mongering after Chavez has died. LOL, this was existed before core. The only way to actually win an election when Chavez was winning by 60% of the vote is to continue the same rhetoric and policy means he says no, now go to advantage relations. The first argument is that the U.S. funds on the link level, the U.S. funds Caprias, which means this is never going to be, what is this?
U.S. funds Caprias, which means Maduro will not perceive the U.S. as genuine.
Yeah, the U.S. funds Caprias, which means that Maduro will not see this as genuine, and also increases anti-U.S. sentiment when we were trying to do anti-narcotics. It's the reason why people would never do anti-narcotics and don't solve that internally. Maduro also is going to say no, he doesn't want to use, go down to the internal. This would be terrible for their economy because it would force the United States to impose liberalization efforts as a prerequisite to having a reform because we would have to establish an FTA. That is what congressional members would require as a result of U.S. experts go to the region. This would devastate their economy. This is empirically proven by the U.S. economic relations with Latin America in the 1970s where we have been empirically able to crowd out manufacturing sectors and other sectors because we are able to subsidize our sectors when one they are not able to afford it and two we are far more advanced which kills their economy. Third argument is that the current liberalization practices are great.
Status quo solves the economy.
And status quo solves the economy because China is investing over $100 million in loans, and they are better, more integrated with the Venezuelan economy because they invest in infrastructure because they view relations as necessary but not economic productivity as a result of that. Which means they have far better loans to the region and narcotics efforts are never going to lead to never going to lead to a collapse of the global economy. Even if there was oil shocks, doesn't collapse the economy. There was a 400% rise in oil prices during the OPEC oil embargo in 1990. There was a rise of 200%. That didn't collapse the economy, and the economy has been empirically resilient to oil shocks. Consumers become more accustomed to high prices. The average fuel economy of vehicles is at an all-time high, and the economy is going to just companies will release results. There's no way you're going to even solve anti-narcotic efforts. They will just use boats if it's actually so profitable, and they can get drugs from Guatemala places that are north of Venezuela. Now, what do the democracy problem internally? No link to democracy problem with people who do not model the United States. They model the example of the Arab Spring, which means they're either going to do it because it's self-interested or they're not going to do it whatsoever. Second argument is that people don't model the U.S. because of our empirical backing of dictators and free and fair elections have already happened. The international monitors have said that Chavez's elections were all free and fair. Yes, there was some curtailments to democracy, but that's not your return that you're going for, and it's not going to create a more stable world than prevent a civil war in Venezuela. There were 14 years of Chavez's rule didn't cause any sort of democracy problem. Even if there is a civil war, the country will be able to crack down and prevent it. And they don't isolate it. It's been single other countries, so I'm probably outweigh it.
The orders will be the same. Yeah, the orders can be the same.
The same? Okay. Politics, China, solvency, relations, democracy. Cool.
On immigration, this is a story the women's been reading for literally months. It's probably too little too late. Probably needs a dad. This impact is never going to happen. The first argument on immigration is that it's not going to pass in the South. There was a letter written to a group of AA Republicans from apparently a group of six Republican senators urging the Senate to vote against negotiations and also show that they are trying to stall negotiations. They were screaming, slow down, stop this resolution coming. They're also comparing immigration reform to Obamacare. Was the reason that they're never going to pass it in the South. And if anything, they wanted to slow down. There's absolutely no trade off as a result of the The second argument is the senators don't want it in the South. Grassley session by Likely, Ted Cruz, and Warren Hatch, and John Kane all said that they didn't want it to pass. And the next argument is because Ted Cruz hates so much he will make his #1 negotiation. The only way to pass immigration to defund Obamacare will be his only demand. Defunding Obamacare is never going to happen. It means immigration is never going to happen. The next argument is the Republicans noted in a letter that they think immigration reform will always kill American jobs. The reason that this is never going to pass, and even if it does, it won't include the non-skilled worker base to never be able to solve this. Next argument is not going to pass Republican support and unemployment-based program rejected by Democrats who support the unions because the AFL-CIO totally hates it. The next argument is that Senator Hatch and Klobuchar introduced separate bills and separate immigration reform. This came 8 days after the immigration framework. They said if their immigration bill didn't pass, and this bill would pass. That's the unique reason that all their impacts are checked back in the status quo. Also, a reason that there are 2 pieces of legislation trying to pass in the status quo. We don't see any of their impacts happening. The next argument is that anti-immigration groups like population targeting are trying to pressure John McCain not to pass this. McCain has empirically moved farther right when criticized by big groups like this. Also, 2007 proof that it will never pass because labor unions totally came out against it. Also, the argument that the Republican Party Party is absolutely too fractured to ever be able to unite behind anything. Karl versus Rand Paul, what direction the Republican Party is going in, meaning they will never be able to unite and never be able to solve anything. The Grams are absolutely too fractured. They said that they will be able to rally behind pathway decisionship. We tell you pathway decisionship is what's creating the main flags. Now there's absolutely no consensus.
They don't say what the consensus is.
They also don't say what the consensus is. We tell you that they will never be able to reach consensus. We also tell you that they say that this will pass. That legislation will actually be drafted in 2 weeks. That means there's absolutely no time trade-off, and all the impacts of the case are always going to happen first on the link level. We tell you that this is not the plan is not enough to piss off the GOP. They're not going to care because it doesn't affect them either way. Also, the GOP doesn't perceive this. They care most about the economy. That means that's what the trade-off always happens. We also tell you the trade-off happens more on the continuing resolution. That's what happens on March 27th. That's always where the Republicans get pissed off because they want the demands on Obamacare. They don't trade off with immigration because they've given up on this. They say that this is an endorsement of Chavez, but the Link-Turner's argument is this is key to prevent Chavez from actually becoming anti-U.S. The next argument is the Link-Turner. The GOP actually likes this because it looks like pro-Chavez era, and it's key to getting any type of oil. The next argument is the Link-Turner. The GOP likes the plan because you can get cheap agricultural goods. Also it creates United States hegemony in Venezuela. Always a reason that the GOP likes it. Also, they're never going to be key to solve the economy. We tell you the countries like India don't actually want this piece of legislation. They won't send their workers to the United States because they think it'll kill their economy. Also, there hasn't been any type of reform like this for decades. The United States economy still has collapsed. They're also not reading any econ uniqueness, meaning they never get these impacts at all. China. The first argument is that they can't change the anti-United States stance in the status quo. The fact that the hardliners are already anti-US in the status quo is the unique reason that this would have already happened. We also tell you that it's totally not unique because it doesn't change the hardline doesn't change the ability to get oil. We tell you that we are getting oil in the status quo and this hasn't freaked out China, meaning there's no chance of crowd of the next argument. The next argument is that it doesn't freak out China. We don't have relations with them in the status quo. We tell you that Obama actually blamed a cyber terror attack on the government, even though it wasn't. This totally freaked out China and made them super against the United States. This is also something that would have freaked out the hardliners if any of this was true. We also know the hardliners have motivation in the status quo because things like the United States nuclear subs moving to the region. Probably the age of pivot policy totally freaked out hardliners. Also, all the fights about cyber technology would have freaked out hardliners if any of this is true. We also tell you that there are arguments about China's sphere of influence. Also, not unique. We tell you the United States is trying to increase aid with Argentina, and they're having a big debate about forgiving the debt. Also, the United States is trying to give alternative energy to Argentina. Also, probably a reason this would have freaked out. Also, the sides already perceived that the United States is going to do something like this in Venezuela because after Chavez's death, this is a unique time for this to do this. Also, the United States has done this in the past, hasn't freaked out China. We also tell you that this Link-Turner, that this creates stability in Venezuela, means this is good for China. China has the ability to get oil out. The next argument is no link. There's absolutely no crowd out. China can still have relations with Venezuela. There's no chance that they will trade this. The United States hasn't tried to crowd out China and other Latin American countries. The next argument is the Link-Turner. We prevent the government of Venezuela from being able to collapse. But they're not contending that the government collapses without the affirmative plan. That means this would be super bad for China on the impact level. They say the hardliners. We tell you the hardliners are always a rational actor because they're controlled by the military. Their arguments about how hardliners being totally irrational are pretty bad. We tell you the hardliners would never attack the United States. It would always be bad. It would always be bad for them. They would never lead to war with the United States because they'd always get blown up by the United States. The United States has massive nuclear advantage. They also have massive tactical advantage. They have these nuclear subs that would totally annihilate China. Means they would never do this. Also, econ ties are always going to be able to check this argument. China's economy depends on the United States. Also, I want to extend the argument that Maduro really wants this. Means this never pisses off China because it's good for the economy. This should advance this argument. There's also no link that China still has the ability to import oil in the status quo. The next argument is the link to we're seen as aggressive. Now this is the perception of cooperation, meaning we're the only way to solve this. They're conceding in the status quo. We look super aggressive. They say solvency. They say Maduro says no for a couple of reasons. The first argument is that the claim's actually a win for Maduro because it shows he can finally make the United States capitulate to what he wants to because he kicked out the United States ambassadors, but then with the plan we come to the table first, which shows that actually Maduro's ahead on negotiation. Unique reason he would always say yes. Also both advantages are reason why he would say yes. Also, it looks like it's not an aggressive stance from the United States. Reason he say yes. Then the argument that it's a massive shift to cover up frosted relations, which means to prove that he was even better at Chavez because he's successful at something Chavez hasn't been successful on. Also, because he's on retreat because he said some homosexual comments in the status quo, meaning this is the lightning rod for how he can get more some homophobic comments. That means this is a lightning rod for how he can get election in the status quo. Also, he's not Chavez, so all of the arguments about how Chavez was able to carry on an anti-United States rhetoric is not something he thinks he can get away with. He's worried about getting election politics, meaning the only way to ever be able to solve this is for the United States. Also, extend the arguments about how there's massive fear since Chavez isn't there in the status quo. Advantage one. They say that Maduro's never going to see this as genuine because it looks like it's funding neither candidate, but looks at the fact that it's key to solve stability. It's also key to being a win for him. Means that he always sees this as legitimate. Looks like the United States is extending a friendly hand and supporting his regime, which is always a win for him. They probably shouldn't have conceded these arguments. They say that this is always going to kill economic liberalization, lead to an FTA. The first argument is we can have continued trade with a lot of people that hasn't led to an FTA. We have a lot of countries that we only have an FTA with a few countries. The next argument is that our scenario is it's empirically resilient, except the analysis about the economy is uniquely fragile in the status quo because of the 2008 recession. None of their arguments are going to apply. They say we can't solve narcotics because of things like votes. However, we were key to set a precedent that we were able to do something about narcotics on Advantage 2. They said the United States never gets modeled because of things like the Arab Spring. I want you to extend the argument that this is a super key time because of things like Chavez mean we have to actually take some kind of role in the status quo. We don't need to solve that for the Arab Spring. We have to be able to solve that for Latin.
Just go for the Venezuela impact.
Which one?
Which one? Just that we stabilize. We make Maduro less of a dick.
We tell you that we don't need to go for modeling. We'll just go for the argument that we make Maduro less of a dick. They said this is not stable because of Chavez. Chavez wasn't able to pass this. We tell you that Maduro is totally different. He's not Chavez. We have to control the relation going further to prevent any type of crackdown. They say this actually leads to a crackdown. We're the only one to put pressure on Maduro. They're conceding our number one link argument, which is that we're the only way to actually put pressure on him and to normalize relations with the United States. Also, they're conceding the argument about how it's quid pro quo with the United States creates a stability means that people in the country don't get killed.
The order is going to be democracy. Then democracy, advantage number 2. Then immigration. Then China. Then relations. Then solvency and relations.
Again, please.
Yeah, I'll repeat that. So democracy, immigration, China, solvency, relations.
We need a second.
Okay, fine, Stotin, Taiwanese people. Oh, it's gonna be really impressed. It's gonna be really impressed, man. There we go. We're not seeing it. Ready? George Talavera asked me to dedicate this speech to him. This speech is for George Talavera. I speak for George Talavera. Democracy, firstly, I've considered free, fair action happening in the status quo. Also, that it's been stable for 14 years and that there's not going to be any civil war because it will just be crackdown. You have considered all of these arguments was criminal. No impact, even if also extend the MG argument that says the United States will be pressuring Maduro, which indicates that there's not going to be any cooperation. The framework will be pressure, not cooperation, which indicates that all of the which flips all of the arguments about perception or motivation. Maduro knows that he's going to be pressured by the United States. That's why there is an antagonistic relation with the United States. It indicates that he will say no to all of the shocking politics. We're not going to extend all of the impact defense. Impact defense bottom says it's not key. It's not key to the economy, or it's not key to the economy. Also, all of the unique arguments indicates Republicans are ideologically opposed, which indicates that there's no chance of passing or any current ever coming into effect, which is not going to be united. But I want to extend all of the counter arguments that indicates what the plan does, i.e., increase United hegemony, increase American agricultural markets, increase oil, which means that number one will be crowding out China's oil interest, but number 2 is that we'll be trying to increase hegemony in Latin America, which turns all of their relations arguments, because after we engage with them and try to increase our hegemony, guess what? They turn back.
But extend also that they'll backlash on the resolution, so the terms apply to the CR, not to immigration.
Also extend that the backlash applies to CR, not the resolution, which means all of the terms, they backlash on the CR, which means terms apply to CR as well. No impact to CR. China. Extend the Southlanders in power in the in the status quo. Number 1 is the North Korea argument. Number 2 is the foreign minister argument, and Xi Jinping argument says that the foreign direct, he was trying to increase foreign direct investment. You say that hardliners really hate the you say that you can't anti-United sentiment is a question of whether the anti-American factions in power. We control arguments that the softliners in power now, which indicates that even if hardliners hate the United States, they don't have any influence on the on Chinese military policy. You say hardliners already hate it. We've already answered that argument. You say that you get away or not nearly as much as China, but also you have considered arguments why China perceives Venezuela as a partner, independent of who they export oil, such as CMTC developing oil infrastructure for them, or the telecom industry developing more infrastructure for them, which means even if the United States is getting a little bit of oil, that's not going to be a problem for Uniques. But additionally, there's a sanction on their oil company, which means we don't get oil from them. You say relations China is bad, blame for Taiwan. It's not a it's not a question of cyber terrorism. Terrorism is a question of territory. It's a question of business interests, who the business interest supports, which indicates that Softline is able to overcome these kind of projections. But additionally, United States back off cyber terrorism has not become a big diplomatic issue, and China's denial of their responsibility has not been refuted, which indicates that which indicates relations are okay. You say hardliners are motivated with the answers that already pivot to Asia is also preempted. One, she specifically said that he welcomes the pivot to Asia as long as Chinese interests are respected, which indicates that the plan is the only plan has a propensity to flip pivot to Asia. You say that what is the technology argument? You say that there's technology, however, it's not interact with softliner, hardliner argument. It's a question of which factions in power. You say its sphere influence is inevitable because of things like Argentina and alternative energy, not in the same way as Venezuela. Number one is that China specifically perceives Venezuela as a key partner because they have invested so much money. They don't perceive Argentina as strong of a geopolitical partner, especially when Argentina has had much stronger relations with the United States, which indicates China's not trying to use Argentina as a base to hedge against the United States. You say its perceived unique time frame was. You say its perceived unique time frame was that's but our link argument is way outweighs our argument because it's perceived as crowding out China. Yeah.
The argument is that they think something is inevitable because of Chavez's death. Obviously not because.
Oh, they think something is inevitable in China's death. Cross-apply or Maduro argument. After Chavez died, they came to China and said, "Hey, we're going to increase relations with China," which means they don't perceive that as inevitable. Also, we've done this in the past. None of them have succeeded. That is a unique argument of relations. We agree with you on that argument. You say increased stability. Come on, this is a factual argument. This happens way farther in the future. But you also consider unique to social quo solves argument to indicate that China is stabilizing Venezuela in the status quo. You say that there's not going to be any kind of crowding out. Yes, there will be crowding out. You're trying to increase oil. You're trying to increase American hegemony over Venezuela. You're trying to pressure Venezuela, which indicates you're diplomatically crowding China out. Additionally, you're giving them the American economic model. That is your advantage one, which indicates yes, absolutely there'll be crowding out. Also, the hardliners perceive a crowding out because they want to control the oil infrastructure. They want to get more of the oil after Maduro about closer ties, which means yes, there will be a perception of crowding out. You say collapse of government. You have considered collapse of government is not inevitable. You say hardliners rational actors. Yes, but their calculus is necessarily bad. That's our argument of the LOC that they misperceive whether they can deter the United States from being drawn in. A lot of PLA generals says that if they move, the hardline PLA general says if we move on Taiwan, the Taiwan United States will be deterred and not go to war with China and allows them to take Taiwan, which indicates that they believe that they're way stronger than they are. No, believe that they're way stronger than they are, which indicates even if their rational actions and rational calculus will lead them to war. You say they're not going to be attacked because of we'll just simply be able to roll them. Cross-apply arguments of why they perceive they're able to deter the United States, but also you say economic. Now extend our internal link that says that hardliners will take power, which means that they will be able to dictate what economic policies they take. You say that econ guys are able to check cross-apply or preempt that says hardliners don't care about economy. They don't care specifically about interdependence. They care about economy in the way that they securitize resources. They don't want to continue to trade with the United States because they think it just crowds them out. You say Maduro wants economy. They want economy with the United States and they want cooperation with the United States. You say cooperation not perceived aggressive. Cross-apply our increased hedge argument. Also cross-apply our arguments about pressuring Maduro, but additionally, even if there's cooperation with the United States, not cooperation with China, which means China does not want these kind of cooperation. Anything else?
Just on the Argentina argument, anyone who knows about the Argentina topic knows that we are not giving them this tech in the squo.
Yeah. Also on the Argentina topic, if you did research Argentina topic like Martin did, then you know that we're not giving them this energy, alternative energy in the squo, which means China is not freaked out by this. Go on to the say no debate. Oh God, you have completely misunderstood the motivation of Maduro. Maduro wants to get reelected. How does he want to get reelected? Does he want to say, well, the guy that was really popular hated the United States. I want to just be buddy-buddy with the United States. Or do you think he'll go, no, United States tried to counter to me, but I'm saying no. That is all of our say no arguments, but additionally you have conceded the arguments that were funny. Capri is in the status quo, which means Maduro does not know whether or not we're genuine. Even if all of your arguments indicate that our engagement is going to be genuine or that it's going to be friendly, Maduro does not perceive it that way, which means he's going to say no. Also conceded all of the arguments that says Maduro wants to get political capital. How does he want to get the political capital? Dicking over the United States, like Chavez did, yeah. Which means that all of your friendly hand arguments not interact with our argument. Additionally, you have conceded the narcotics impact even since still best go to places like Guatemala, which means there's no solvents for these kinds of arguments. Using economies for actually to concede all the status quo solves argument, even if their economy is weak in the status quo, Chinese investment and increase in Chinese investment should be able to solve for that. Also consider that their Chinese investment much better integrated with their economy, which means where China status quo is able to solve better. Whereas when you try to force liberalization efforts, that destroys the economy. Using it does not solve the global economy. It does not matter. Your impacts is contextualized to the Venezuelan economy. When you repeat the problem, mistakes of history, that is problematic.
Defense.
Yeah. Also, extend oil shock defense, which means even if the Venezuelan economy collapses, it does not lead to global economic collapse and does not lead to instability because you can see the impact defense on the other side.
Okay. It's going to be advantage 2, advantage 1.
What did you say?
Advantage 2, advantage 1 try.
Cool, thanks.
Are we all ready?
Channeling my inner Lauren Canotha, here comes some impact calculus to decide outweighs ace of point is time frame. The China scenario happens extremely factually. They are in the midst of defining their party platform, which means as soon as this perception happens, the platform switches towards the hardliners because the business interests are going to switch because the people who are seen as only able to securitize their business interests in the world of the planet are the hardliners, which means that they get an immediate mandate. They are going to attack as soon as possible because they don't know how long the mandate from the business interests are going to last, which means they securitize Taiwan and the South China Sea within a matter of months. This immediately causes a U.S. Nuclear strike against China because of the security guarantees with the region. This leads to nuclear war extinction. The time frame of both of their scenarios is extremely long. There have been 14 years without a civil war. They have not made a brink analysis about why civil war is going to happen in the future, that there's unrest in the country, that there is even a fucking rebel group in the country, so there was no brink, even if they are winning probability of that argument. Same is true with economic collapse. They don't read a stat for what the Venezuelan economy is doing in the status quo, even if it is going to inevitably collapse. That could take literally 10 to 20 years. Also, when we are winning arguments that the economic collapse would lead to all that economic collapse would do is make people perceive enemies out there, right? That is exactly what our internal link is, that China perceives enemies and that it needs to securitize, which means there's only a risk that the perception is being sent faster by the China dissent. And the economic collapse scenario would happen a long time. It would the proliferation of economic collapse would take several months to occur, and the economic collapse itself is not going to happen for a long time. The decent point is probability we are winning a massive defense and there's no risk of actual civil war within the country because 14 years today this was it, and they would just be able to crack down. The same is true of the oil shock collapse argument. They have mishandled the China argument. It means that their economy is going to be stable because they have massive foreign direct investment from the Chinese economy, and that oil shocks would never lead to a collapse. There was a 400% increase in prices during the 1970 oil embargo. There was a 200% increase in prices during the 1990s. In 1990s, that's when our economy was doing shitty. This would not cause collapse even if we are on the brink because of 2008. That's not a reason why we were on the brink in the 1970s. In the 1970s and in the 1990s we were trying to coming out of recession. Now go to the democracy argument instead that it would take then 14 years just proves that their only argument is Maduro is worse. This is not warranted. There was not a warrant for why Maduro has less control. He has control of the presidency. He has control of the military. He would be able to crack down in the same way Chavez did in this would presenting. You do not make an analysis like the military is less behind him or anything, and you can see the crackdown would be able to solve and your only internal link is that there's not free and fair elections. You can see there are free and fair elections, which means there's no incentive. Now we'll go to the oil shocks economy argument. They will extend this, but they are mishandling the question of the China defense. They have given $100 million in foreign direct investment, and it's better than the United States because China focuses on infrastructure because it does not care about the economic reward of its investment. Rather, it just wants relations within the region. Rather, the U.S. investment would be the opposite. It would focus on getting U.S. benefits, which means the U.S. investment would necessarily be worse, which means there's only a risk that status quo is able to solve, and that we have unique offense against the case. They say this doesn't solve their global economy. What are you talking about? It's a question of Venezuela's economy collapsing, and then in that leading to the global economy, you have conceded that their economy is not going to collapse because of China. Now the China dissent, framing to uniqueness. None of their arguments or reasons why hardliners are empowering the status quo. You can see the massive analysis like China is, the softliners were able to spearhead UN sanctions against North Korea, and China appointed its foreign minister, who is the former ambassador to Japan, and that Xi Jinping has expressed a desire for cooperation with the United States and for direct investment with the U.S., and that business interests are aligning with the status quo, which means none of your non-uniques make sense. They're going to go hard for this Argentina argument, one we are not successfully giving them energy technology in the school. That's why the topic area is freaking inherent, and to the have not read a statistic about how important Argentina is, which means you should be very skeptical of the there, and there was a massive link differential between our plan and their plan. Down to the question of whether this is going to be good. It's a question of what they perceive. China's not going to perceive this as being good for Venezuela's economy and good for China's economy. It's going to be seen as crowding out. The argument that I want you to extend is that they have said, quote, it will slam its fists on the table of the world, so the world will hear us if they interfere with China's sphere of influence. That's why they would see the 0 side.
Order is going to be politics, Venezuela relations, the solvency page, and China. Yeah, sure. Ticks, advantage 1, the solvency page, and China. Overview will be after ticks. Very messy kick out on the politics position. I want you to extend the argument that the link terms will apply to continuing resolution. This is the only argument we make continuing resolution more likely to pass. We get to read new arguments against each other. The continuing resolution won't pass in the status quo. See, West Virginia proves that there's actually no propensity for agreement on government spending right now. Also, the massive of amendments being introduced by the Democrats agree that there's no propensity for agreement. We tell you that we allow the sequestration pass or allow continuing resolution pass. That is their argument. We tell you continuing resolution is key to prevent a collapse of the economy. Would stop all government spending. Moody's had said that they would downgrade the United States if political infighting continued and stop their government from functioning. That indicates we get access to a total economic collapse because there's a downgrade and a lack of confidence in the United States. Also stops all government spending, which indicates we don't get money going into consumers through our entitlement programs or propping people up through government spending anyways. That is a clean route to economic collapse. That is a bad kick out. You shouldn't have given us this opportunity.
Okay,
One of order.
Sure. So, one, if you wanted to read CR as an add-on, you would have said it was cheating in the MG, but you certainly don't get to read an add-on to a link turn of politics in the PMR. If you wanted to have this as a possible deployment, you should have read an impact to CR rather than CR as top of the docket. Otherwise, literally every thumper on a politics dissad could turn into new extinction offense in the PMR.
You say we make CR pass. This is an explanation of what that means. People either buy that or they don't.
That explanation is not in the MG.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure.
Cool. Yeah, I'm on Venezuela relations now. See that as a tiebreaker for us. We're still going to get access to our economic collapse argument. They will not win. They will not win a probable enough link on China. Probability will be the key factor in this debate. Venezuela. You're conceding the entirety of the unique scenario, which indicates that the only reason that Venezuela is actually being belligerent is because the United States has been so first. You're conceding particularly that in 2009 we were increasing our relations, which indicates that Venezuela or that Chavez was down with increasing relations too. You're also indicating that the reason that Maduro has to posture this way is because we were dancing on the graves of Chavez and it looks like we were trying to move into Venezuela. You're conceding all of these arguments indicate that there's no reason why they have to be opposed to us. You're also conceding the link magnifiers, which indicate that now is the key time because we're able to stop resentment and all of this. Furthermore, you're misunderstanding the impact scenario. The impact scenario is we trade oil with China or with Venezuela now. They will cut off oil if relations collapse. That means that all we need to win is that we prevent a collapse of relations, and we need to win that we prevent a collapse of relations. That is problematic for you for two reasons. One, it indicates that the amount of oil we trade with Venezuela in the SWO is enough, which indicates you don't get a link to China. That is the only argument we've ever gone for, is we need to prevent a cutoff of the oil. The other reason that's devastating for you guys.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So you don't go too long.
Sure.
I have explicitly flagged right after the economic collapse scenario that their internal link to Venezuela economic collapse is that it causes oil shocks.
Yeah.
Not an argument that they will cut off oil or even a warrant for why that would be true.
And that's just not correct. The third impact argument is that Venezuela will collapse without the United States economy. The fourth argument is that in a world where relations collapse, Venezuela will cut off our oil, which will lead to price shocks. Okay. They get the story wrong from Jump Street. Their oil shock impact is not as good as they think it is, particularly because they're not responsive to Emily's argument that there is more fragility now than there ever has been before, because we're coming off of the global recession. That indicates that we only need to win a minor. We only need to win that oil shocks are minorly destabilizing, which indicates that we'll collapse the entire economy. Your economic resilience arguments don't respond to this, particularly because the MO gets to this argument with about 6 seconds left. It just says extend the defense. There was ink. You don't know which defense you wanted to extend. You will prefer Emily's specific analysis, which indicates that none of it is true in a world where the economy is more unstable. All of your argument, that's all we need. We are getting access to a very probable link of there being a destabilization of the world economy. They're not playing enough defense here. We're certainly winning all of our arguments for how we solve Venezuela relations, particularly because you're not responsible on the link level. That indicates that all of your thumpers are not going to be true, because this is seen as a change in strategy from the United States. You don't answer that argument, which means we get full access to this link. Solvency page. The argument is that Maduro is always going to want to follow Chavez. Not inclusive of our arguments to tell you that Chavez was moving towards the United States. Also not responsive to Emily's argument that he doesn't think he has the personality of Chavez or the power of Chavez to replicate him, and he's scared of the United States. We indicate that Maduro is different for this reason. You were unresponsive, which indicates that he will absolutely say yes. Your other arguments that it funds the opposition. You're also indicating that you're also conceding that this is a change of strategy from the United States. It's all seen as a hedge by the United States to indicate that they should still be able to deal with Maduro in a case where the opposition loses. We're not seen as fundamentally opposed to him. Still, no reason they would say no. China. The first argument I want is that China would still be able to get oil. China gets oil gets oil in the status quo, and Venezuela still exports oil to the United States. There's no reason that they absolutely have to repeat your arguments about sanctions on the oil company means that they don't get imports. Just not true. We import millions and millions of barrels from Venezuela. Sorry, you're wrong. Your fifth argument in the MO is that this is not in response to Emily's cybersecurity says that this is only a question of trade. That's devastating for you, because you concede the econ ties argument. You say that cybersecurity doesn't matter because the only thing that matters is the economy. That feeds into the econ ties argument. Indicates that the same problem would have been caused. Your response to stabilization pivot argument is that Asian pivot is always going to happen. Is always going to be okay as long as it respects China. No argument for what this is. It is a pivot to monitor China's hegemony in the region, establish a bunch of bases against their allies. How is it respectful of China? No articulation of that indicates that we would already have triggered their link arguments. Also, we're not trading off of China oil in the first place. Your arguments they perceive that they would lose oil and hegemony. Not true, because the United States, because we are just trying to preserve the status quo of trade relations. You don't get any link to this argument. Your argument about hardliners is the epitome of bad internal link debate. You just say a bunch of crazies will take power and they won't care anymore. This is absolutely not true. You're not providing a world for your warrant is that they think they can win in Taiwan. No warrant for why. We've committed to checking them in Taiwan. We have better weapons. You're conceding Emily's specific arguments about nuclear subs. China doesn't think they can win in Taiwan. China won't lose out on any oil. China's already been poked in the eye, and economic ties check, no answer. No probability for this act.